So here we are with Terence Davies, The Deep Blue Sea, adapted from Terence Rattigan's 1950s play. It's been a play, it's been a movie, it's now a movie again. Terence, why did you want to tackle this? Take this nearly 60-year-old piece about the pleasures or the dangers of passion in a very tranquil life and make a new movie with Rachel Weisz.
Well, it was brought to me. I have never seen anything of Rattigan's work on the stage. I just hadn't. But all I'd seen was the 1952 version of the Browning version, which is very moving, wonderful performance by Michael Redgrave, and the Burt Lancaster version of Separate Tables in the late 50s, and that's really good too. In fact, when I was reading the plays again, I think the films are better than the actual plays. And I said I can't do them because I think they're just so good. So I said, can I read the rest of the canon and choose one? And I read the rest of the canon. I thought, I think I can do something with The Deep Blue Sea, because my mother had taken me to see it, but I could only remember, I was 11, I could only remember one shot of Kenneth More coming down the stairs. But that's all. And that's how it happened. I mean, they brought it to me. The Trust brought it to me.
So they asked you, Terence Davies, are you interested in doing a movie of one of Terence Rattigan's plays? And you could have picked anything you wanted?
Yes.
And even the Browning version, which I think Albert Finney did a remake of.
No, I couldn't have done the Browning version because I love the 52 version. The Anthony Asquith, I love it so much. And I couldn't do Separate Tables because I think I love that too much as well. And I said, no, I can't do them. I'd make a mess of them, so it's best not to do them at all. But it was when I read the play again, and in fact several times, because the actual story is really rather unremarkable. But it's the subtext that is interesting, and the subtext is a ménage à trois about unrequited love. All of these people want a love from the other that they can't reciprocate, and that really is tragic, because we've all been in love, we've all loved. It's a human trait that we all share.
So it starts no exit. Hell is other people.
Not so much that. I think perhaps hell is other nice people.
So, in other words, Lord Collier loves her desperately, but she can't return his love. She loves Freddie, and he cannot return her love. In fact, he's frightened by her passion. And she is willing to abandon her status as an aristocrat in England in the 50s, this wonderful proper life, for this really low rent. I mean, I just thought the wallpaper alone in that little rooming house she ends up in would be enough to send anybody back. I just kept thinking, this is so hideous. And that wonderful scene where the landlady is just so shocked to discover that this woman is actually Lady Collier.
Because those days, it's not so much that she's an aristocrat, the fact that she's living with someone, which women say, I heard them say this so often, I run a respectable house here. I don't want any trouble. I'm not in trouble with the police. People were frightened those days. You didn't do that, but she's human enough to say, well, as long as you keep it quiet and no one knows, she says, I neither condone nor condemn. That's what she says. But that was something that was so unusual. People didn't leave their husbands. Middle-class women did. They may have had peccadillos on the side, but they didn't leave their husbands. And working-class women like my mother couldn't because they had 10 children. There was nowhere to go. But I think when she married William Collier, because men and women were were rather naive sexually, probably thought, he probably had a small libido, but he was kind and he was cultured, and those things, like loving companionship, maybe she thought, oh, well, this is marriage, that's what marriage is. And then at 40, find sex, and as probably for her first orgasm at 40, and it simply overwhelms her, and she's prepared to sacrifice anything for it, and everything, and she does.
She's given several chances. Lord Collier comes and is ready to take her back, in spite of her throwing herself at this man, even when she realizes at this point it's pretty much one day in her life that you cover.
It's 2 days.
2 days. So, how did you come upon Rachel for this, to step into the shoes and dresses of Vivien Leigh?
Well, this is literally true. I was watching television. I switched the television on one night. I was bored with reading. This film was already on. I didn't know what it was called, and this girl came on with these wonderful eyes and this fabulous luminosity, the sort of luminosity that Cilla Johnson had. I thought, God, who is this girl? Anyway, I waited till the end of the credits and said Rachel Weisz. I rang my manager and said, have you heard of someone called Rachel Weisz? He said, Terence, you're the only one who hasn't. So I said, please send the script to her. She got the script, she rang me, we talked for a while, and I said, if you say no, I have no idea who I'll send it to. I said, will you do it? She said, I'd like to sleep on it. I said, yes, okay, that's right, but will you do it? She said, yes. That's how it happened.
And for Tom Hiddleston?
Oh, I had to see a lot of people for that role. The problem with young actors now in England is that it's really worrying. They think that the part has to be altered to fit them. And you have to say, no, it's the other way round. The number of actors I said, no, it's received pronunciation, and they still kept using a South London accent. The time you said they're making up the dialogue. I said, please, would you not do that? Would you read the dialogue that I've written? Take not a blind bit of notice of you. That was very dispiriting. And then he came in, and we read together, and I thought, we found him.
Just like that,
yeah.
You knew. And Simon Russell Beale doesn't make very many movies. Is it because he's hard to cast for film?
No, what happens, I've never seen him act on the stage, because I don't live in London.
You live in Liverpool?
No. I live on the Essex coast.
Okay.
I don't live in London, so I'd never seen him act, although I was aware that he's considered the greatest stage actor of his generation. Anyway, he did a lovely series of films on sacred music, because he was originally going to be a chorister, wanted to be a singer, did it from the 12th century to the 19th century. I thought, he's got a lovely voice, a lovely presence. I wonder would he be interested, so I sent him on. He came to see me, he read a sonnet, we talked about the music of Bruckner. I said, will you do it? He said yes.
Oh, just like that?
Just like that.
Wow. So did you change very much when you said about young actors wanting to change your lines? Was there a lot that you did with the play to make it into your movie?
Yes, I mean, a lot of it had to go, because a lot of it, for instance, Freddie was always saying to Jackie Jackson, old boy, and it really gets on your nerves. I thought, I want them to have banter, RAF banter, but it can't be old boy all the time, because it's just tedious. So which is why I said, imitate. You're sending up the officers. Range 2000 and closing fast number 1. Stand by tops. It's all that sort of thing. So deliberately sending it up, because that's funny. It had to be funny, and they played it. If you play the dialogue as it's written, quite frankly, they sound like middle-aged men, and it's really not alive. So I did change it quite radically, and the trust said, change it radically, and I did. But no, the problem with young actors in England now is they think that they don't have to find the character. The character's got to be altered to fit their psyche. And I just said, well, I'm sorry, it's not. Would you do this in Chekhov? No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't dare. Would you do it in Shakespeare? No, because you wouldn't actually have enough talent to invent an iambic pentameter.
True. And Hester, did that character change slightly,
yes.
Dramatically?
Yes, it did. Because, again, what's difficult about... I know what the 50s were like, I grew up then, but it's actually keeping the tone of the piece while sometimes altering the dialogue. And I've got an imitative here I can write in the style of. The greatest compliment I got was when I showed the House of Mercia to the Edith Wharton Society, who know her work backwards. And all of them said, we couldn't tell what was your dialogue and what was Edith Wharton's. And that was a great compliment, because I can imitate. And when I opened the play out, I thought, if the scene were in, how might he have written it? Obviously, I'm not Terence Rattigan, but you can imitate a tone.
So Hester changed how, do you think, exactly, in your hands?